I'm going to tell you about the time the solstice kicked my butt into a whole new dimension. And it was actually back in 2012 for the winter solstice. And, there was this whole the world is ending, the Mayan calendar is ending kind of panic. And I had been studying this and spirituality and mysticism for decades prior to this point. Okay, this was not something that I was new to. I was consciously aware that the world wasn't ending, but we were going to be in an apocalypse, which actually just means lifting of the veils. But I didn't know how personal it was going to be. So I have always honored and revered the solstice. It is this time where the sun is either going to be at its, darkest night or longest day, depending on which side of the world you're on. And this was the winter solstice for me. And I had been performing with my circus arts, performing arts flow troupe called Flow Science at a BioWare Christmas party. And the evening ended with me going through this, let's call it a purification process. The purification process is purging out literally everything that was not serving me. So that included the physical level, because I was in my early 30s, I think, or maybe late 20s, and I was not always treating my body with the care and consideration that it required or desired, because I was invincible, infallible, all of those things we are in our youth. And I'm speaking to you now as a 43-year-old woman who, this was like 13 years ago. So it was it was quite a revelation, and I'm just realizing now that would have happened when I was 30, and so I was going through all kinds of initiations into that level of adulthood. But yeah, I was purified energetically. If I take you back to the night of the solstice, I had been performing with hula hoops. I had been with my glass walking, fire eating friends. We had fire, we had LEDs. We were a spectacle on the main stage. There were stilt walkers. It was a grand affair. But we were friends with one of the people that worked there. So we were invited to stay for the party after our performance. And I ate a bunch of things that my body didn't love at the time. Some extra gluten and dairy and a little bit of alcohol. And also something I now know I am allergic to, and it will evacuate the entire contents of my body really dramatically. And that is catfish or basa. I realized after a little bit after eating it, I was like, did you know you have 30 minutes? That TikTok sound is from today, but it could have been back there. I knew I needed to get home really quickly. So, I drove with my butt cheeks clenched in my car, hoping to make it home, because I am the kind of person who, when I eat something my body it doesn't agree with, it will evacuate both ends as quickly and dramatically as possible. Sorry if that was TMI, but I just wanted to give you the gravity of the situation. So I rang in the new year of 2012 on my bathroom floor. And, my body was like, get rid of every single micro molecule that could have potentially even infused into the water of your body. So one of those situations. Physically, I was unwell, probably as sick as I had ever been. Emotionally, mentally, I was held by this beautiful divine energy. My whole team was there. I was bathed in this light of divine that was like, you're okay. You're gonna be okay. You are walking through a doorway and nothing is gonna be the same after this. And so it was very intense, but also beautiful. It was wild. And I could feel the physical, energetic, spiritual, and emotional purging that was happening for me to be able to step into this new reality. The lifting of the veils, my own personal apocalypse, the end of my old world and the beginning of my new one. And that was really all it took for me to, really shift a lot of things. All it took. It was pretty dramatic. But basically, when I woke up the next day, I felt so light, so pure, physically lighter, but like energetically, psychically, mentally lighter, like baggage had been removed from me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so clear, so clean. I knew it was a deep initiation, and I didn't want to mess up that feeling. My body felt so good. I was like, you know what? I'm going to devote this next year to listening deeply to my body. And I didn't know exactly what that meant, but let me tell you, that was one of the greatest initiations into my soul gifts, my deeper multidimensional awakening. There was just so much revelation, intuition, co-creation that happened over the course of that year. It really set me on the trajectory that I have come to now, and prepared me to step in to the world as a spiritual teacher, but I didn't start there. I had been given a prophecy back when I was 8 years old by that same divine love light that I was going to be a spiritual teacher, but I was at this time back 13 years ago not ready. I was just doing my thing, figuring things out, recently married, partying a lot, going and dancing with my friends, going to festivals. I was imbibing a lot because I was working at that time while I was figuring stuff out just as a server. And so I was drinking a lot. I was a raver. So there were recreational substances, chemicals used that were always done in a very prayerful shamanic way, but there was MDMA, ecstasy, mushrooms, things like that I would intentionally take to elevate my state of consciousness into new spaces and places and dimensions, and it was amazing. But all of that in the past had been disconnecting me from my body's wisdom. Right? Your body cannot give you the clarity of your full power, the ancient wisdom, the intuition, when it's clouded with things that are outside of you. So I didn't realize this, but when I said I was going to spend a year listening to my body was going to tell me so much. And it was never once my intention to make it a year of complete sobriety, but my body never once asked me for anything stronger than green tea. It was like champagne at midnight on New Year's Eve. No, thank you. Drugs, alcohol, none of that. Not a single drop touched my lips. I might have had a coffee or two. But I basically wound up becoming this teetotaler, straight edge being when I was listening deeply to my body. And that led me to unveiling the pleasure that was already available to me. It led me to creating better habits nutritionally, but also I went on so many grand adventures. When I really think about it, this was me deepening into my human design, and I am a sacral authority. And so I was able to hear my sacral energy even more clearly because I was listening for my yes or my absolutely not. This was again a decade before I discovered human design. I had no idea what that meant, but I started living in greater alignment. And the adventures that I went on were like mind-blowing. I became a priestess and a creation coach. I traveled to Bali and I was in Atlanta, Georgia. I went to Sedona. I had just so many really cool, revelatory experiences that changed my life, and I learned how my body could be used to make decisions. I got the most beautiful clarity. And because I was not energetically foggy from foods that weren't agreeing with me or substances that I was maybe taking, like one day, but then would leave me cloudy for the next couple days, I just had this intimacy with my body that came through. My ability to meditate and speak directly to the divine, to my luminous team, was already quite strong. I'd already been meditating for at least 13 years regularly and done all kinds of energetic clearing and cleaning and energy work. And I had been working on my mastery already at this point for a long time, but this just skyrocketed it to another level. And that was a very personal initiation before the 2020 initiation into the collective apocalypse. So I didn't know at the time that I was personally being prepared to be a way shower, a guide, a spiritual teacher at a deeper level. And it was in 7 years later that I stepped out to do this work full time and to support people in their multidimensional magic, with their spiritual work, with their embodied ascension, to take their cosmic divine magic and help them bring it down to earth and facilitate deep transformation, to become divine channels, to be able to have the capacity to both like feel and know and understand your intuition, turn on psychic senses, and then have the discernment to know exactly what it all means. All of these things were really amplified for me from that year of deeply listening to my body. And I would like to say that after that, sometimes occasionally forgot a few lessons from it, but they always stayed with me. I might have had a little bit of alcohol and maybe another substance 1 or 2 times after that, but I realized that wasn't the jam anymore. I could access states of consciousness with my heart open and my third eye fully open as well, into different states and dimensional places without anything outside of myself. And I began to learn how to work even more deeply with that multidimensional realm and bring other people through different ceremonial practices, working with Gaia and these harmonic resonance practices, to bring them into altered states of consciousness that are just as amazing as plant medicine journeys, but without needing to imbibe the substances. So it was such a game changer for me. And I mean, I am still reaping the benefits. And now I teach people how to listen to their bodies so that their intuition can be run through the truth filter, the discernment filter of the ancient wisdom that their body holds. It is really, really, really amazing. And I could spend all day telling you about the benefits that took me through. But what I will do is invite you to use the solstice energies. And if you consciously make time, you set aside time to go deep into divine connection and listen to yourself, you're not going to necessarily need the same kind of dramatic purge that I went through. Hilariously enough, I also had a mini experience of that kind of physical purge right before COVID happened, when I was needing to be prepared to step into my next level and my next role. So the physical purging can be such a pain in the butt, and it's not pleasant, but if it is happening for you, just think about how it's actually happening for you, right? To elevate you, to release you. And if you allow it to be a gift, you can turn any kind of shitty situation like that, quite literally, into gold, into the wisdom that you require for this next level embodiment. So take some time this solstice and on all of the solstices consciously to create the space to connect and communicate with your soul directly, to receive the frequencies that you need in order to get that next level energetics, and also to understand what it means. It's very helpful to have a guide. So inside the Abundant AF membership, as well as in my Magical as Fuck Mastermind, we work through these beautiful portals of energy together, consciously, in ceremony, held by your luminous team, so that you can receive exactly what you need. So whether you are going to be doing your own ceremony and meditation, or you take a look at the code I have to join us inside Abundant AF for $11 if you use the code frequency. You can really change your life if you work with these practices consciously. We need to make space. This entire ascension process is about making space in your body so your soul has room to be with you. It's not leaving your body behind. It's making space for you to be in this beautiful embodied, soul embodied way so that you can be in pure divine alignment and coherence with all that you are. And it's such a gift, and it makes life so freaking fun, so much more pleasurable and pleasant, because when you do that clearing work, it gives you access to realms of power, potency, magic, and bliss, where all of the creation energy that you have comes online. The purge is for a purpose. But again, you might not need to physically purge like I did, but we can, in ceremonies together, we can energetically purge out the old stuff, whether that's beliefs, whether that's habits, actions, frequencies. We can move that out so that you have the space for your soul to come in and play. Sometimes I spell solstice with an S-O-U-L because that is the way that I hear it, because of how much fun I've had with soul play on the solstice. So I have more stories about incredible life-changing events that have happened to me on different solstices, but I hope you enjoyed hearing how that one 13 years ago kicked my butt in 2012. And I really want to just invite you into your own personal process, or invite you to come and play with me in a group ceremony, and just make sure you're taking advantage, because it is just twice a year and it can set you up for your next level of magic. So much love.